My name is Dale. I'm not here to give you financial advice, and I'm not here to tell you how to live your retirement. I don't have a system. I'm not selling anything. I just wanted to share something. Because there's something that happened to all of us over a very long time, and almost nobody talks about it. It isn't money. It isn't health. It's something that got taken away so slowly that not one of us noticed it going, and I only found out it was gone when it came back. It took me the best part of 4 years to work out what it was. I retired at 62, and honestly, life really did begin at 62. Let me explain what I mean. For 30-odd years, I had a picture in my head of what this was going to be. A caravan, a garden that finally got the attention it deserved, golf on a Wednesday, that trip we kept moving to next year, the shed sorted out properly with everything on hooks. There was a folder in my head and everything went in it. One day. And look, all of that's fine. Some of it I've actually done. The garden looks better than it's looked in 20 years. And if that's what somebody's after, good luck to them. I mean that. But the whole time I was filling that folder, I was being sold something that wasn't quite true. I was told the thing waiting for all of us at the end was rest, that we'd worked hard and now we'd earned a long sit-down. But that's not what was waiting, not for me anyway. It was something much stranger than that. What I got back at 62 wasn't rest. It was permission to decide for myself. Now, I know how that sounds. I've been a grown man since I was 22. Mortgage, children, funerals arranged, decisions made at 2 in the morning that nobody else could make. So how could anybody hand me back permission to decide for myself? I never lost it, except for 40 years of my life there was a form on a portal, and on that form there was a box. And in that box I typed the days I wanted, and then I pressed a button, and the button said request. And then I waited, sometimes a day, sometimes a week, and a message came back and it said approved. Approved. A 57-year-old man with a mortgage nearly paid and 2 children grown, finding out on a Tuesday afternoon that a 31-year-old had approved his holiday. And I want to be clear about this because it matters. She was lovely. She was good at her job. She wasn't the problem. That's the whole point. There wasn't a villain in any of this. There was just a system, and everybody in it was doing exactly what they were supposed to do. I had to ask if I could go to the dentist, not tell, ask, and then explain why the appointment couldn't be at the weekend, as though I'd chosen the time to be difficult. I had to bring in a piece of paper from a doctor to prove I'd been ill, at 50-something years old. My word on its own wasn't enough. My daughter had a thing at school once, in the middle of the afternoon, and I remember saying to her, I'll have to check. She was 9, and she understood exactly what that meant, which is the part I've never fully got over, and I didn't fight it. I didn't even notice it, because I had a mortgage, and the car needed 2 new tires, and the children had grown out of their shoes again, and that form was the price of all of it. I'd have signed 100 of them. So I did, for 40 years, and it worked. That's the thing nobody says. It worked. The bills got paid, and the children got shoes, and the house stayed warm. I just never noticed what it was quietly costing me, because it isn't taken in one go. It's taken a form at a time. And then one Friday, it stops, which I assumed would feel like something. It didn't. Not for a long while, because a habit that took 40 years to build doesn't come off in a fortnight. For the first year I was still asking, not out loud, obviously, but in my head before I did anything there was this small pause, a little check, as if somewhere there was still a box to tick and a person to hear back from. I'd want to drive over and see my brother, and I'd catch myself thinking, can I, this week, can I? There was nobody left to ask, and I was still asking, and I don't think it can be rushed. I tried. 40 years doesn't come off in an afternoon. It took about 4 years before I stopped doing it. And what's on the other side of it is very quiet, and very hard to explain to anybody still working. No form, no request, no approval, no explaining myself for a Tuesday morning, no notice period on my own life, no proving I'd been ill, no waiting to hear back, nobody who has to agree. Here's the bit I got wrong for years, though, and I'd rather say it than pretend I had it worked out. I thought what I'd been missing all that time was permission. Get the permission back, and that's it. Sorted. It isn't. Because permission and purpose are two completely different things, and one of them was never mine in the first place. Permission was issued. Somebody granted it. It came down to me from a system, and the system decided how much I got and when. Purpose isn't issued to anybody. Nobody grants it. It has to be made. And there's no form for it, and nobody approves it. And for 40 years, I didn't have to. The job handed me both at once. It told me where to be, and it told me why. And when it stopped, I got one of them back straight away and was left to sort out the other one on my own. That's the loss. That's the thing that went while I wasn't looking. Not the job, not the money, not the people. The muscle I'd have used to decide why. And I'd say it matters more than anything else in this. I've watched a few men finish up, and the ones who struggled weren't the ones who were short of money. They were the ones who got the permission back and had nothing waiting for it. I'll talk about that properly another time because it deserves more than a minute. And I want to say what it's actually like because it's the part I wouldn't have believed until it happened. Last month I woke up on a Wednesday and decided to drive to the coast. Not planned, no arrangements. I just wanted to see the sea. And I got as far as the end of the road before I realized I hadn't told anybody. Not because I was hiding it. Because there was nobody who needed to know. That sounds small. It is not small. It took 40 years to get back. And I'll be honest with you, I still catch it now and then. Somebody asks me to do something on a Thursday, and there's a half second, a tiny half second, where I go to check. Check what? Check with who? 4 years on. It's still in there. For a long while, I felt a bit odd about how much I was enjoying it. Just deciding things. Having my lunch at 11. Deciding not to go. Spending a whole day on something nobody would call productive. I thought there was something wrong with me. There isn't. I'm not lazy, and I haven't given up. I'm using something that hadn't been used properly in 4 decades, and it felt strange because it was stiff. We're taught that asking is what grown-ups do, that checking first is maturity. That's what being reliable meant, and most of us were very reliable for a very long time. But there's a difference between being considerate and being conditioned. And I couldn't tell you where that line was for most of my working life. So the only thing I'd say, and I'm not telling anybody what to do, this is just what I've found, is that the permission came back on its own the day I left. It arrived free. The purpose didn't. That one I've had to go and build, and I'm still at it, and I'll talk about how that's gone another time. But it starts in the same place. It starts on an ordinary morning with nobody to ask, and one question that used to belong to somebody else. What am I doing today? Thanks for listening. I'd like to know if any of this sounded familiar. If it did, say so below. I do my best to read all the comments.